Okay, so I'm watching a video of geeks and gamers reacting to Mark Dice's video on a Disney exposure. Yesterday, I was watching Tyrone Magnus, react to the same video. And it seems like that everyone's getting caught up on what Disney's been doing behind closed doors all these years. My thing is that I feel like a lot of people are focused too much on Disney and not trying to get to the root of the problem. And every time Disney sinks lower and lower, people get closer and closer to uncovering the truth, but they never quite scratch it. They never like move past Disney. So what I think is that when you have an infestation in your house, you go after the nest. You don't go after each and every bug because if you did that, you'd be killing bugs for the rest of the year as long as you're living there. This whole agenda, it stems back from like the United Nations and World Economic Forum. These guys are the money pits that are funding all of this ESG DEI nonsense. It seems like no one ever looks past DEI or ESG and try to get to the root of the problem. So I'm here to at least help guide people to the root. So these bigger channels like Endymion, Geeks and Gamers, Tyrone Magnus, Melanie Mac, everyone else, they can just actually just focus more on this so that we can knock down the roots, so we can rip up the roots and then uproot the problem. I wanted to start off by addressing that this stuff is directly tied to everything that is in the United Nations website as well as the World Economic Forum website for some kind of 2030 agenda. And what we're seeing from Disney is a part of the diversity agenda that's going on here. And I'm trying to prove to you guys that they're just pushing for depopulation. The main focus of these people by quote unquote saying they want to be here to fix the world is that they're worried that the world is overpopulated. They're worried about, the standard of living sustainability. They're worried that the population is going to become so massive that when you go to the store, you won't be able to buy what you want. Like you'll only get limited to like maybe three vegetables, three waters and stuff like that. They want to avoid that. So what they're doing is they believe in their hearts that they are doing the right thing, the Lord's work, but they're not. They're really actually just pushing death. They're just pushing depopulation. Anything that can lower the population growth rate is what the World Economic Forum and the United Nations are pushing. Okay, so when you look at, for example, how the LGBT is being promoted and pushed in the mainstream media, same-sex relationships cannot produce a child. It takes more of a process to do so. And not a lot of people are going to be willing to do that process. Therefore, it lowers the birth rate quite a bit, as well as transgenderism, which promotes puberty blockers, which sterilizes someone from having a child, which also lowers population growth rate. Then you look at abortions, which literally delete children, and that lowers the population growth rate. And then there was this article I read about on Bill Gates. I can't cite the article which it was, but he noticed that nations with the lowest scores or the lowest education have the highest birth rates. So he's pushing and promoting education, which is fine, but the purpose that's being pushed is questionable. I don't know if he's doing it out the kindness of his heart or to lower the population growth rate, because in the same article it said that nations with lower healthcare has the higher population growth rate. Now, if you look at the education and healthcare that Bill Gates is pushing, it makes sense. But I don't want to name drop him because I don't want to accuse him of something if I do not have evidence to accuse him of that. I'm just saying it looks very suspicious that everything that's pushed by the United Nations is towards a population decreased growth rate. And I find that very strange. And I see that that may be one of their single goals in this. So that's what I'm here to prove. That's why I'm on the United Nations website to talk to you guys and explain to you why you're seeing these agendas being pushed. It's not about Disney. Disney is just the fall guy. It's just the asset. It's just one of many platforms used by the United Nations to promote their agenda. So I'm just trying to give you the bigger picture so you know how to uproot the problem. Now, the number one question pops up when I watch these videos is that why are white people being targeted specifically? Well, I want to say that I can't answer that entirely, but part of the answer is that because people of color are being promoted. And if you notice for instance, the LGBT flag, right? It doesn't make sense to a lot of us, but why add ethnicities to a flag about sexual identity and practices? It doesn't make any sense at first. But then when you start to factor in the population and the drive behind population sustainability, which is their whole primary objective, it starts to make sense.
Now, if you look at what Bill Gates was saying about what I was talking about earlier, how there are nations with like low healthcare and low education, and and they're having so many babies at once under poor conditions, quote unquote. It makes sense because the people of color are the people that populate these areas where education is not so good or up to the standards of the main stage, and also that these places have terrible healthcare. A lot of places like Liberia and such have awful healthcare, and they're having a lot of babies as a result. So when you take that into consideration, it makes sense why they're putting people of color on the flag, because the LGBT flag, it ceases the population growth rate, and if you mix ethnicities in there with that, people of color, it kind of mixes the message and puts us in a box together, so we subconsciously submit to the agenda that's going on. That way we are tied into the depopulation agenda that's going on. It's not just LGBT now, it's people of color. You guys got to stop having babies because you're going to make the world too crowded, and we cannot sustain our level of convenience in civilization.
So, in other words, these big companies have been taken over by the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. And my white American straight Christian friends, you are not on the list. They did not invite you to the party because you are not the problem in their eyes, even though they try to make it seem like you're the problem, like you're the biggest racist in the world and etc. Is the goal is to get us in those positions of power so that we can spread the message to our people and we could promote this lifestyle to our people to get us to calm down on the birth rates and to also get us to submit to the World Economic Forum. Because if you also look at this, people of color are least likely to submit to these powers because of, quote unquote, white history and the things that we've been through. I can give you a primary example of this. When I was younger, Christianity, as a Christian myself, now a newly Christian, Christianity was seen as the white man's religion. So a lot of us moved to Islam. That's why you see a lot of black people with names like Sharif, Hakeem, Rahim, and stuff like that, is because we found another religion and we somehow tied Arabia into Africa. It didn't make any sense. I think Malcolm X had something to do with it. But yeah, we saw Christianity as the quote unquote white man's religion. So you start to see that in the 70s and the 80s, we had a fight against, the man. That's what we call them, the man. And this lingered. Like people from Gen X are still alive and working in the working class with millennials and Gen Z. So what I'm saying is that these the people of color, we were already against the system. We were never really with it. It wasn't until they put Barack Obama on the main stage that you started seeing more black people and more people of color care more about democracy and, politics. And the black Republicans were forced to step out of, their quiet lives of working hard and protecting their family to stand up against democracy. And then you started seeing more black people become active in these things. I'm not saying that we didn't vote and we didn't care about politics all these years. What I'm saying is that we had like a unspoken or unwritten rule or code. Like we would lie to the Census Bureau. We didn't trust anything the government did for us because of stuff like the Tuskegee experiment and quote unquote slavery. It's like because of that, they kind of like use that to like tickle our ego with Black Lives Matter and stuff like that, and kind of fool us into becoming their political puppets. And even Joe Biden used us. Yes, he did. Presidents use us all the time to get the quote unquote the black vote, the most disgusting term I've ever heard in my life, the black vote. It's like, bro, we're Americans. We just voted. But anyway, it's like they use this. This is all a part of their game to get us under their control. So it's kind of like we replaced you in their agenda type. You know what I'm saying? That's why they're not hiring for you. They don't care about you right now. They care about, controlling the population, because this is, again, the United Nations is backing all of this. All right, now here we go to the facts. I'm on a PDF called We the Women Global Survey Report 2. Now, you can download the PDF on the United Nations website. It's on the home page. You should just scroll down a little bit. It says We the Women Global Survey Results. I'll cover this in my last video. Women on their priorities and building the future the way they want. Okay, so right now I'm reading the global survey results. It says the We the Women survey reveals that despite facing global backlash against women's rights, 85% of the 2,500 women surveyed across 185 countries expressed willingness to contribute to advancing their rights. Ahem. An overwhelming majority of 60% of women believe that women's representation and leadership roles in their respective countries will improve overall in the next decade. So right now, like I said, the goal is about representation and it's about women being seen in leadership positions. So now that's a part of the fight that's going on here against the white males in America. This is it. So that's the feminist part of it. It's like their goal is to do this by 2030. So let's keep reading.
Moreover, more than two-thirds of the women worldwide assert the necessity for enhanced representation in leadership positions as both national and global levels to influence the future. There you go. They need more women in power to influence the future. Seen, at least. That's why they're going so much over identity politics over at Disney, is because the United Nations demand that more women be seen in leadership roles. Oh, an overwhelming 85% of women identify themselves as advocates for women's rights. Now, I'm trying to find that 2030 timestamp because that explains why there's so many things being rushed right now and why the agenda is so sloppy and why everything is so obvious because they are running out of time. It is 2024 and they said that only 15% of the agenda is done. So they need to rush. I read all of this on the United Nations website. All right, so I'm just going to leave the PDF. Remember, it's called We the Women Global Survey Report. And you can just find it on the United Nations website. Go there, read it yourself. You'll understand feminism to a T. And even in this same PDF, they mention family as an obstacle for women that stops them from reaching their full potential. Understandingly so, a lot of women do have to cease a lot of things because of family. In a lot of nations, especially where the men have to work crazy hours to sustain the household, women get stuck with their families. The point is that they're identifying family as a problem for women. Now, if the population decline is the goal of the United Nations, how is telling someone that family is an enemy a good thing? It's telling you to stop having families. So that lowers the population as well. Remember, I'm just saying this is what it looks like. I can't accuse, but I'm just saying all the evidence I'm seeing seems like it weighs towards depopulation. All right, so now this is the main page for the sustainable development, and this is the last page I'm going to go over because I don't want to make the video too long. If you go to the unitednations.org and just look for sustainable development /sustainable development/ student resources, you'll find the 17 goals, and everything that they have here is exponential. It is pushed to a T in Marvel and Disney. This is everything that you need. It's right on this page. Just come here, read it, and you will see it in absolutely 100% of the Marvel content and Star Wars content, whatever. It's all this page right here, the sustainable development. Now, right now we have like Act Now. Let's see. Inspired to actual. Yep. And look right here, you have Frida. What's this Frida one? It's storytelling. Storytelling is a powerful communications tool and helps children remember lessons and virtues that they will use in everyday life. Now, this is what I'm talking about, and that is exactly why Disney was acquired. Frida. Just go there and look at that, and you'll understand. Now, every goal, like I said, is here. They're talking about, no poverty, zero hunger, etc. It all sounds good at surface levels, but when you dissect it, you understand what it means and the methods that they use. It doesn't really seem like it's meant for your well-being. It doesn't really seem like it's meant for your well-being. So that's what I'm saying. Just go to this page and go to United Nations. That's all I'm saying to you guys. Cover it in your videos, compare it to the Disney Marvel crap that's going on, and it'll all make sense. It'll all make sense. So I'm gonna just leave you at that. You guys have a good day. And I just wanted to share this as a video response to all you guys going through it because I know like racism is the real deal, bro.